The seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Here we go, Monday night, the Monday Club. The bus is back. I know Celtic season finished. Well, it seems like a long time ago already, but the bus has never been busier, so we just keep rolling into town, Jonathan, picking up the passengers and having a bit of fun along the way. How the devil are you, young man?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, definitely. It's maybe been a week since the season ended, but this bus, as Ange likes to say, does not stop, will not stop. It's going to keep going right through the summer. And my God, I can't wait to see how many more passengers we've got lined up and ready by the time we get to the start of next season, because this summer promises to be quite an exciting time for this bus.
Oh, it does, mate. The bus is excited. Celtic fans are excited in general, Jonathan. It seems like our rise is mirroring each other right now, mate. From the midway through the season where it's been a bit of a checkered past for Bhoycie boy. Then we've seen a second half of the season with Celtic unbeaten in the league campaign on a wave of positivity, Jonathan. And I think the bus has mirrored that, mate. So there you go. Wee bit luck there for comparison. Yeah, Phil McGinley is laughing at the intro. I don't even know where that's came from. Yes, and we've just stuck with it, haven't we? Stubs his horses and he says, "Let's do this, lads." Timmy Bing, hello and hail, lads. Liam Collo keeps calling me youngster right now because he's wanting to be part of my team when we take on a rival podcast, Jonathan. I'm going to be giving you all the details about that this evening as well. We're going to have a wee bit of fun with that next month, something to look forward to. Loads though, Jonathan, to look forward to in the immediate future as well. We've got tonight's show with your good self. We've had some talking points that I've managed to somehow scrape together. But I'd say there's a wee bit of meat and bone in them all, which I was quite a lot of meat on the bones of them all. So looking forward to that. You'll all be glad to know I'm on water today as well, so my voice might hold up a wee bit better than normal. Also, this week, tomorrow's a night off. Wednesday sees the brand new era, Jonathan, for this summer of Phil McGinley hosting his own show. With me, of course, but I will not be in the driver's seat. McGinley gets the keys. And we are proving that this bus, Jonathan, doesn't just go backwards, forwards, a wee bit off-road at times, shall we say. No, Jonathan, no. This bus now goes back in time. and we are taking you back to 1994 on Wednesday. We are covering all things World Cup 1994. The reason for that is it's really when I got my football bug was the World Cup 94. Phil's very much cut from the same cloth. I did a wee bit of homework yesterday. Jonathan watched our review show hosted by Barry Davies. It was excellent. It took me back. Some iconic kits were flying about then. Henry Larsson was flying about then. I'm sure he'll come up in conversation, Jonathan. He's one of my many claxons, I think, these days. And we'll be talking about music at that time, what was happening in the news and all that shite as well. Then, Thursday night, the Thursday Night Forum, which has been a total success with David Logue, where again I give up the keys, but not in the essence. I'll still be hosting, but the viewers get to raise all the talking points for me and David, and we're quite enjoying that because you get some sort of left field sort of talking points that way, Jonathan. It keeps everyone involved, which is what the bus is all about, because it's, you know, it's a community, mate. It's, you know, we're all in this together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Friday sees the first collab of the summer, and you know, it's a big name, Jonathan. I want Tony's autograph when he comes on, because Tony of Four Tims and a Podcast fame is joining us on Friday night, just to get his thoughts on the season and stuff, and we'll have proper banter. We're calling it a Friday night beer. I didn't want to push my luck and put him on the Double Down quiz, Jonathan. I was just chuffed that a big name like Tony would be joining us on the bus, so I'm looking forward to that. And then, obviously, we might do a wee Sunday sesh as well. You never know. The Sunday sesh is a bit of a cult show. Then, the big news that I was alluding to, Jonathan, was that on the 18th of June, that's the first date we've got confirmed, we are doing a home leg, a question of sports style format. I can exclusively reveal you are hosting the home leg, Jonathan, at Boyce Bus Park. Obviously, it's going to be a sellout. And we are hosting the Endless Celts team. So it's going to be teams of three. I'll be captain. I think Stephen Tomlinson is captaining for the Endless Celts. And we'll have two guests. I think everyone in the team wants to come on. So I will be drawing lots, I think, for the Boyce Bus to get the team together. Jonathan, I think that'll be the fairest way. But three of the Boyce Bus, myself and two other members in the home leg against Stephen Tomlinson and two members from Endless Celts, and then we'll do the away leg on their show. I'm hoping as many of you guys that watch the Boyce Bus, love the Boyce Bus, come to the away end, because the away days are always better days out as well, Jonathan, as we know. And you know, I'll drive us on the bus there as well. But yeah, I think we'll go on and we'll invade the Endless Celts podcast as well, Jonathan, their YouTube channel, and hopefully what will work out is that we get a wee bit of crossover sorted from their audience to get some new viewers on ours, and vice versa. So that'll be the plan behind it, and it's something that I think we can really look forward to and have fun with. I don't know if any of you follow me on Twitter. I know some of you do, but what we'll do is we'll try and jazz it up on Twitter, Jonathan. You know I like a wee Twitter war with other podcasts. So we can do a wee bit. We'll do a wee bit of getting in their mindset, Jonathan. Win the mental battle, Jonathan, before kick-off. But I think that'll be really good fun. And again, we're looking for different ways, Jonathan, to try and keep you guys entertained, because I know everyone's enjoying the bus, but deep down to try and be an informative Celtic news sort of show when there's no football on is have we ever been that? Maybe not. But you know what I mean. I think like when there's such less talking points, I think we need to try and get a wee bit more creative with the content that we're putting out, and maybe go down the more light-hearted road. Not that we'll be taking our question of sport battle with Endless Celts light-heartedly, Jonathan. Again, as always, there's nearly 60 of you watching live already. A big thank you to you all on this Monday evening. If you've not hit the like button, please do, because we'll see those numbers increase as the show goes on. Over 100 again all day yesterday, Jonathan, for a 2.5 hour show. Feel very blessed by that, and I do appreciate it. If you've not hit subscribe yet, please do. And remember, we are now into the home straight with the Celtic, the Boyce Bus, the Celtic merch. That's a talking point for later. The Boyce Bus merch. 8 more days. You've got a chance to get your t-shirt. All right, you've only got 8 more days. The Boyce Bus t-shirts are on fanboyfootball.com, who have been sponsoring us. It's been brilliant fun. But they're going to be taking a wee bit of time out to reassess what their next move's going to be. And obviously, if they've not got a site, Jonathan, we can't sell teas. So that does tidy all that up. That's been 10 minutes, Jonathan, of me ranting and raving. But now that's all done, let's talk Celtic. Now, Ange Postecoglou, Jonathan, and we'll just let you get stuck right in. He's done another bus reference, Jonathan. I knew you would notice this.
Yeah.
It's a warning shot, though, that he's fired. I think he's getting us all very much prepared. The likes of myself, he was probably aiming at Jonathan. His style will not be compromised, even in the Champions League.
No, I definitely won't be. And, I think we all kind of expected nothing less from Ange Postecoglou. I think he was always likely to approach Europe the exact same way he approaches a domestic game against your likes of St Johnstone or whoever it may be in the league. So I kind of expect that he's going to continue to go down that route, and it could make things very interesting. There could be a few games where we're hiding behind our sofas watching it. But I think at the same time, it's going to try and help develop the team. It's what you really, you want to see your team trying to have a go and really test themselves properly against the best that Europe has to offer. Really, we could always sit in and just try and play for your point, but we see it domestically enough at home when clubs do that. Sit in, and then it just becomes a bit of a non-event at times, because you're just not really seeing a proper game of football. You just got only one team trying to win it, and it's just not how Celtic want to play. It's not how Celtic are designed to play. It's never really been part of the fabric of the club. It's certainly not how Ange Postecoglou wants to be setting his teams out. And I think when he's looking at it, the very thought, I think, would offend him of putting, a double-decker bus and parking it, against the likes of anyone in Europe. I don't think he asked him whether it's a Man City, Liverpool, whoever you want to call it, that he ends up playing. He's going to be trying to find a way to win the game, and also trying to find a way to actually play attacking, free-flowing football as and where he can. So I think, when you look at it from that point of view, Postecoglou is absolutely the same type as manager for me as a Brendan Rodgers type figure, in the fact that he's very much stuck to his principles. He's not going to change his mind on any of that. For you, Russell, do you think that could end up causing a few problems for us, in the sense that, we could end up leaving ourselves open to be on a few pastings in the Champions League?
I think there's two ways to look at it. I think with Postecoglou's style of play, yes, it's going to have a few heart attack moments along the way, Jonathan, undoubtedly. It sounds to me the way he was talking was quite bullish about the fact that, we're going to go in and play our own game. I suppose when you try and look at it from a positive light, though, Jonathan, is, we're going to go down, we're going to, live and die by the sword, Jonathan, or on our sword, whatever the saying is, and I think the one thing is as well, could it complicate things if we were to try and become a sit-in and catch them on the break side in the Champions League, when that's not really the message that they're getting in training, Jonathan? This side has now had a year to sort of, and it has very much so by the evidences on the park, that this side now has an identity, Jonathan, of how they want to play. Why change it now? It doesn't matter who you're going against. And I think they all believe in it, the players. That's the beauty of it. They all believe in that style of play. I mean, again, it'll be interesting once it's kicked off, and say that first game we have in the group stage, Jonathan, was to be like a home tie, and a winnable home tie. Or maybe, I know the games are all difficult, but let's say on paper it was one of the matches you thought, we've got a chance there. Benfica at home, for example, right? I'm just throwing a name out there. Benfica at home, and we get spanked 4-0 playing like that. I think then we would all maybe have those sort of conversations at more length. Right now, though, Ange's letting you know early bells what he's going to do. And what he's going to do, Jonathan, is set up his stall the way he wants. Don't start trying to get me to change. He's telling us all now. This is how it's going to be. He was quite, there was a bit of swagger in what he said. It's done me all right so far. So I'll just stick to doing what I do. I get that. I back it, because it's brought us success this season. When I had doubts over it, I do think he adapted a bit. And I think all good managers do, Jonathan. But what I would say is, as well, you look at the top managers, Jonathan, they don't compromise the style for anyone. Albeit, yes, they're signing players vastly more expensive and superior to the market Celtic will be operating in. But the principle remains the same. Paul McFarlane was on yesterday talking about, when we go into each game, it's just 11 versus 11 at the end of the day. We've got to play. I think the big difference will be, Jonathan, and you know, I rate Rodgers as a manager, etc. But I'm not convinced he had the full buy-in of that team in Europe. I don't think they thought his idea of playing the same game worked, and I think that came through. I think if Ange, what he seems to do is connect the people even better than what Rodgers did, for example. And I think if they all go in with the belief this will work playing like this in the Champions League, then they'll carry out the instructions more, like with more, I don't know, definition, shall we say, than what they did in the Champions League under Rodgers, where they all looked a wee bit, I don't know, confused as to why they were still playing in that manner when the teams they were against were, you know, you could say, Jonathan, had a large financial disparity between themselves and Celtic. What do you think, though? I mean, do you think it's stubbornness on Ange's part, if that, or do you think that sort of rhetoric will only be brought up after we've lost the first couple of games, if we were to lose the first couple of games?
Well, I think you make an interesting point when you talk about the league. First of all, you know, I remember us having a few conversations at the start of the season when the results weren't so good and the away performances left a lot of question marks and a lot to be desired. Particularly, I think, was the Livingston away game. The first time around that we lost 1-0. You looked back at that and you were kind of thinking at the time he needs to adapt his game a little bit for fixtures like that. And I think over time, I think he did adapt ever so slightly to how Scottish football worked in that sense, and kind of got to grips with the fact that sometimes away games, it's not always going to be pretty free-flowing football. Now, obviously, when you're looking at Europe, it's a totally different animal. Totally appreciate that side of things. But if you're looking at it from this point of view, that, you know, in Europe, if you're going to try and go toe-to-toe with the big boys, there's always every chance you play with fire, you're going to get burned. And it'll be interesting to see if Ange Postecoglou does adapt if he feels he needs to in some of those games. I would certainly be a wee bit concerned, I think, if he was to try and play total football against the best teams, you know, going in Europe, because then you're really opening yourself up to a proper hiding, potentially that does nobody any favours. But at the same time, you didn't want to be playing, you know, in the Champions League and then just being a team that's just going to sit back, cave in, and then just really pretty much go down, maybe lose only 1 or 2-0, but not really have a fist in it at all. You know what I mean? Because it's one of those ones where, you know, sitting in, it's not going to guarantee you any more success than actually, you know, having a goal either. And, you know, it's like you're looking at it and you're thinking there's not really much point. And, you know, playing in the Champions League, for one thing, that's the first time Celtic have been in it in, 6-7 years, group stage football, if not longer. Maybe not quite as long as that, because I was forgetting Rodgers was in there 5 years. Maybe.
17, 18. 17,
yeah, 5 years, maybe 4 or 5 years. But, you know, it's like you may as well actually have a pop at it, you know, because we're not in it that often. You may as well try and, you know, get results there. I would agree with you in the sense that I think, you know, with Rodgers, I think Postecoglou does get a bit more buy-in from the players, because I do think with Brendan Rodgers, he was always kind of thinking of his next move, and I think he was personally probably saying that to the players in some ways as well, that he never saw Celtic as the be-all, end-all, whereas I kind of feel Postecoglou is actually probably more connected with the club than Brendan was when Brendan was here. I think Brendan Rodgers always seen Celtic as a stepping stone, whereas I think Postecoglou is actually quite grateful for where he's ended up. Whereas, you know, Rodgers at the time when he came in, you know, after managing at Liverpool, being at one of the biggest clubs in the world, really, and then he's ended up obviously managing another great club with us. But, you know, from his point of view, he was always going to be looking to get himself back into the Premiership riches. Whereas I think Postecoglou is more the kind of manager who's going to show a bit more loyalty towards Celtic. He's got that buy-in, as I say, his own backstory and everything else, I think, will just resonate and connect with the players more, in that sense that he's going to be wanting these results for the football club, even more so than the likes of Brendan Rodgers is. And I think the fact is he's got a very personal touch, Ange Postecoglou. You can even tell, even in like the small details, even in the last couple of weeks, he made sure, you know, he brought on Stephen Welsh in the last game to make sure he got a medal. James McCarthy he brought on as well to make sure they got a medal. Even when he lifted the trophy, the league trophy, at the end of the final day, he made sure all the coaches were all on the podium with him as well, which is, you know, not pretty unheard of, really, for a manager to have all their coaches on with them. Quite often they're up there with the players milking in the glory. So I think Postecoglou is a very much hands-on people person when it comes to that. And in terms of getting buy-in, I think if there was one man who could potentially get his Celtic team believing that they could beat anyone playing his style of football, it probably is Postecoglou. And for that reason, I think you've got to let him have a go at wanting to do things his way. Yes, of course, if you end up playing a like Benfica, for example, and you do end up getting cuffed, then you maybe have to take a step back and think, right, you need to try and rejig this slightly and be maybe slightly more conservative. But certainly you didn't want to end up, as I say, getting back to the stages where we're just putting everyone behind the ball and just playing completely and utter anti-football in the hope of, nicking one. Because that's what we see in the league all the time. It's just rubbish to watch, isn't it?
Yeah,
just rubbish.
yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. And I think, some people are saying in the comments it's not the Celtic way in any way, which I kind of agree with as well. I think there is room for being pragmatic, Jonathan, at times it suits. But I think we've seen elements of that. I always go back to that 3-0 win, and we all think of that first half, the place was rocking, put Rangers to the sword. That's the second time I've said the word sword tonight already. But we really did have a rock and roll first half against them. Second half, we chose not to, Jonathan. The points came first. So there is definitely elements to Ange that knows when to be more pragmatic in the way that we play without actually, I think it was Brown Warrior was saying, compromising the system, as it were. Catherine Williamson comes in. It's good to have you on the bus. As always, Catherine. Ange is at the beginning of building a team to operate in Europe and domestically. We need to give him the time, though, to assemble and develop. Klopp got 4 years rebuild time. Well, I mean, I get that as well. I don't think you're ever going to get 4 years to rebuild at Celtic. But the fact of the matter is, he's won the league first time asking, which was the big, sort of monkey off the back that he really had to sort of achieve in season one, whilst transitioning the football team as well at the same time, which is very difficult to do. Transition season usually means most places, Jonathan, that leagues and cups you're not even looking at, they're not part of the reckoning, whereas he's combined both this year, which again I think he deserves a hell of a lot of credit for. I think now though we're looking at to do this same style, but to the leap, Jonathan, we have to get this right. And now I'm not going to go down the financial disparity road, Jonathan. What we can comfortably say though, from playing teams such as Livingston, such as Motherwell, Dundee's, St Johnstone's, the jump from them to Champions League teams is meteoric, Jonathan. It's massive. It's absolutely massive. Now, for us to be able to play the same way, now Ange seems like he's been very, very coherent in what he's saying, Jonathan, being crystal clear in what he's saying. He is making I don't change, the style, etc. For me, though, when the opposition in front of you is such a jump up in standard, that we're going to need, Jonathan, to have a wee bit more quality in that first team then, in that case, because if you want to play that same style, then the personnel may need to be upgraded in some areas. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, well, we're definitely going to need to be looking at improving the squad. There's no two ways about it. If you're wanting to make a serious dent in the Champions League and make your presence felt, then the squad is going to need constant rework. It's an interesting point Catherine brings in about the 4-year rebuild. And I think, in terms of Europe, you could certainly make a case that if Celtic keep ticking over domestically, then it might take a few years for them to get to a complete sort of stage where they're absolutely ready to be competing in the European scene. Just to kind of build the confidence into the players, making sure you've got all the right bodies in for the right positions and everything like that can take a wee bit of time. I think we are obviously now looking after what's happened across the city, and we're almost in some ways expecting Celtic to be able to go and match that, and that's a good expectation to have. It's just a case, I think, that sometimes these things will take a wee bit of time. I think certainly with Postecoglou, we're going to be on the right sort of lines, and give him the summer transfer window. If he gets, the likes of Carter Vickers and Jota over the line, which certainly with Jota, that looks like it's very much nearly there. He's obviously got Maeda's deal done today as well, which we kind of all knew was going to happen anyway. Yep. So, if you get those two over the line and then you're able to kind of really focus in on the squad and what he wants, and, it's not going to need to make wholesale changes to it. He's done most of the rebuild in terms of the team last season. I think it's more of a psychological element now with the team of making sure they're able to kind of step up and actually believe they belong on the European stage. Because I think for some time in previous seasons with Celtic, there just wasn't really that belief there. There was almost that sort of defeatist attitude sometimes when they were running up against teams in the Champions League or Europa League that were either, fairly close games or games where even, you were the underdog, where I just felt Celtic never really quite gave themselves as much of a chance as perhaps they could have done. Whereas I think that's what Postecoglou needs to work on the most, is that psychological aspect with the team. And I think he's brought them on leaps and bounds, by the way, because they've been pretty much told since day one start of last season, you've got no chance of winning the league, you've got no chance of doing this, you've got no chance of doing that. And here they are coming the end of the season. They've picked up the League Cup, they've picked up the league. They've got the Champions League kitty now. It's all about what Postecoglou decides to do in the summer, both in terms of the transfer window and making sure he identifies the players he needs to improve the team, but also to be able to work with the players he has and make sure that they actually fully believe they're not going into this Champions League just to make up the numbers, because I think that's such an important thing for the players to really buy into, is the fact they have to believe we're going into the Champions League, and whatever that group is, we're going to give it a damn good go to make sure we're going to get out of that group. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But you go into every game and you give your best for that side of things. So I think from that point of view, if Postecoglou was able to implement that belief into the players, then that's almost as good as signing another one or two bodies to me.
Definitely, I agree with that. I mean, I think though, Jonathan, what we would have to say is though, the Champions League, again, like I say, is a completely different animal from the SPFL. And I think even whether Ange signed, whoever Ange signed so far, that doesn't mean though that all those areas can't be improved on further. Do you know what I mean? That's the thing, because this is now entering new territory for the Postecoglou era, Jonathan. But I think it'll be important that we bring in whoever it is we're looking to bring in early. Our season next year is laid out in front of us, Jonathan, as to what the remit is, what battles are going to be hard, what competitions we're in, how much money we're going to have to spend. That's all there in front of us, Jonathan, and it's May right now. The season has only just ended 10 days ago, and yet we go into next season, Jonathan, with absolute certainty of what tools we have at our disposal, what competition we'll be in, and what revenue we can expect to have in the coffers. That's a wonderful situation to be. What we also have as certainty is a manager, Jonathan, who's going to have a full pre-season with no interruptions. We're going to be able to do friendly warm-up matches, Jonathan, and that be the only action that the players have to do up until round one of next season's league fixtures, which is just extraordinary when you consider how accustomed we are to playing all those earlier fixtures. So, again, this season, with all that certainty, I just hope we get business done early. Now, obviously, there's going to be different areas in the park people want us to be identifying to strengthen. As I say, I think Ange will be casting his net wide and far, Jonathan, and certainly won't be going for anyone to come in and make up the numbers anymore. This is going to be direct, first team competitors that he's bringing into the club. Now, we are linked with Ortega of Vélez Sarsfield. Now, he is another left back to be linked. Obviously, we had the Hammarby left back last week being linked as well. Is left back a priority area to improve on for you, despite Taylor's vastly improved season?
Yeah, I would say so. I think, and that's not to take away from Greg Taylor, because I actually think he has came on leaps and bounds this season. I think he was often the whipping boy last season, and I actually think he came onto a game the more the season went on. He was one of those players that did improve quite significantly for me, and I was quite impressed with how well he was playing towards the end of the season in particular. But you look at it, and it goes back to the conversations we've had previously on the bus, is that you need two strong players to be competing for a position, and I just don't think Greg Taylor has that at left back. What we've seen of Liam Scales looks very just average, really, at best so far from what we've seen of him. I didn't feel he's going to be pushing the team too heavily to be getting a start with guys as Scales. I think we do need a bit more quality in there. I think you could certainly look at left back and think there is a possibility there that we can certainly do better than Taylor. But even if we can't necessarily get somebody who's better than Taylor, that if you've even got someone there that can push him, then it's going to make both players come on leaps and bounds, Greg Taylor and, whether it's Ortega or whether it turns out to be somebody else. But I'd be astonished if Postecoglou doesn't buy a left back in this window for that very reason. You only have to look at the other side to know exactly what competition can bring there. And, it's one of those ones you're looking at it, and everyone would have thought a year ago, Tony Ralston, he can beat
Totally.
it pretty much. He's finished. He's done. And I would imagine there's probably still a lot of Celtic fans that are probably on the fence with Greg Taylor, maybe even swayed towards the fact they wouldn't be too sorry to see him leave the club. If that was to happen in the summer, which that's not looking likely. But a lot of people wouldn't shed tears if it was to happen. And I think that's similar with, obviously, with Ralston. Last year, as you're looking at it and thinking, there's no way this boy's got a future with him. Ralston then just goes and proves himself. Postecoglou wants to find the extra gear of the Tony Ralston that had all that potential all those years ago when Brendan Rodgers identified him as one for the future. He then goes and brings in Juranovic, who then pushes Ralston even more, and it's led to a brilliant debate on this bus and across all social media platforms, really, as to which one should be actually playing at right back. And that's all credit to Tony Ralston, because there are a lot of people, including yourself, that would have went and backed Tony Ralston over Juranovic. And if you said that a year ago that Celtic would sign a Croatian right back, and then so many Celtic fans would fall down on the side of thinking Anthony Ralston is actually a better choice than a fully fledged Croatian international right back, you'd have been like, this guy's had far too much to drink, somebody put him to bed, sort of thing. So I think, if you're looking at it from that point of view, if Greg Taylor could get a similar level of competition, who's to say Greg Taylor couldn't turn into like another one like Ralston and bring his game on even more, and then actually, you end up with whoever it may be, and another international type fullback at left back that ends up getting pushed by Greg Taylor, and you end up with this debate again as to whether or not it should be Taylor or whether it should be the new guy they end up bringing in there. I think Postecoglou would be foolish not to sign a left back in that point of view. I still think he needs to strengthen other areas of the pitch as well. Certainly for me, we need a powerhouse midfielder, I think, for the Champions League games. There's not enough bite in there for me. I think even against Rangers, we need a bit more steel in the middle of the park, because you see what they're kind of all about this season. They do have a bit more power, I would say, in the middle of the park than what we do, and I think that's something that we will need to address next season, because make no mistake about it, they'll be challenging us again next year. So if you're looking at it, I would say left back and a proper central midfielder for me are two sort of key areas that Postecoglou needs to identify on, and it looks like he's well going forward on certainly the left back element at the moment.
Well, yeah, I mean, both the players have been looked at. I think one was 25, the Iraqi left back, whose name is escaping me right now, and then Ortega's 23. So they're not like kids, Jonathan, that we're looking at. The guys with plenty of experience. Ballpark figures been thrown about for Ortega were around between sort of 4 and 5 million euros as well, which I can't work that out in pounds, to be honest with you. 3.5 million quid, something like that, which again is steps in the right direction for me. Certainly not something we shouldn't be doing. Chris Kerr may well have more knowledge on Ortega than what we do. He says he's an absolute superstar. Could he adapt to Scottish football is his only concern, but he is such a talented footballer. That's exciting. Very exciting. What was I going to say? A big shout out to Holly if she's watching. I did see a shout out request from Paddy Lavery there. So yeah, hello Holly, and I hope you're good. Thank you for jumping on the bus. Love it. I mean, the left back side, I think definitely it's no surprise, Jonathan, to me that we're looking at two players now that have been linked, to Celtic in recent weeks, have been in that position. Greg Taylor actually surprised me and shut me up a wee bit in the second half of this season, I would say, Jonathan. Not enough, because I'm still talking shite now. But I think in general, he did actually punch above the standards I'd kind of had him, sort of set for him. I think he has done better than that. Obviously, that happens when you've got good coaches, Jonathan, or a good manager. Undoubtedly, every player I think's improved a wee bit under Ange, or almost every player certainly. But how do we get Greg Taylor to that next level? The next level for Greg Taylor would be, I think, still having to go up a couple of brackets in terms of his final ball, his ball retention. But I still think that can happen. One of the easiest ways to get players to improve, Jonathan, is by having, as you rightfully pointed out, healthy competition. We have seen it with Ralston and Juranovic. It's worked a treat. They've both pushed each other on, in my opinion. No one flinches, Jonathan, when one's injured and the other one has to start, or vice versa, or one of them's picked ahead of the other. No one's going watching the game behind, like that. Everyone sort of understands that Both of them bring different elements to the party. Both of them have been very valuable to the cause this season. I would like that at the left back area as well, and I certainly think, if one of these guys that have been linked so far were to come in, Jonathan, that doesn't mean the end of the road for a Greg Taylor. This is about now getting healthy competition for each position on the park. That is a step up from what we've had this year. Absolutely right. When someone says in the comments, the league's still the priority, and it is every year. A lot of talk about the Champions League. I think we're just excited to be back in it, and that's why it's taken the sort of focus. But absolutely, I mean, at the end of the day, to win that league, we won it by 4 points this year, Jonathan, so it's going to go to the wire again next year unless there's an absolute collapse from them and there's a fire sale, which I know a lot of people are still hanging their hat on. But I think right now, in terms of the competitiveness between the two sides, I don't think there's a lot between the sides at all, Jonathan. And I think the league campaign, again, if we're wanting to retain the league championship, we'll need to improve again as well for that. You're absolutely right. I think our focus has been the Champions League just because it's so exciting to be back in it. I think I was getting another shout-out request. I don't want the show to turn into shout-outs.
It's like George Bowie on Saturday night, this.
I know, George Bowie. Stubbsy says, Boyce, can you give my brother-in-law a shout-out, Chris Peacock? Hope you're good, Chris Peacock, mate. Nice one. But, I mean, we will see what happens with that position, Jonathan. Now, where was I going to go next? So, talking of signings, we could look at this in two parts. You don't need to overly focus on the Jota CCV thing. I think it's been spoke about at length. Again, it appears another inch, shall we say, closer, Jonathan. Not much more than that, but the reports seem to be getting more confident, I think, that the Jota deal is going to be done. The Cameron Carter-Vickers one seems to be, there's 3 Premier League clubs looking at him, and there might be a deadline now getting set for Celtic. I read somewhere on that one. It's funny because I was always more convinced of Cameron Carter-Vickers being an easier one to have got permanently than Jota. Now it would seem the more favourable reports on either of them signing permanently seem to be from Jota's camp. Ideally, there'll be, I think it's essential. In fact, not ideal, it's essential that we get both done. One other positive bit of news today, and I know it was always going to happen, which I don't know why it became a bit of news, but Maeda, he's been confirmed, Jonathan, permanent. He's sort of done a farewell message to Yokohama Marinos. He was at Yokohama Marinos. He's sort of said his farewell stem, so that's that all done and dusted. Maeda had a really, really positive impact on the team since arriving in January, didn't he?
Yeah, he really has. He's been it's been a breath of fresh air. Really, he's certainly earned his break. I've never seen a guy run as much in my life. He gives Supersonic a run for his money, which running this boy does. So definitely, getting him signed up permanently is a big move for the club. I think, getting Maeda in, he's brought a lot to the game. I think, from his point of view, he's probably somebody that brings a lot more to the team off the ball, more so than on it. I think his work rate is second to none, really, in the team, which is saying a lot because I think there's a lot of players that will run in Postecoglou's side. But when it comes to Maeda, his sort of tracking back really does put a lot of emphasis on just how good he can be on that. And I think we've seen that before when he's neutralised Tavernier to great effect in the derby matches this season when he's played in them. I think he's still a bit of rawness with Maeda. As a striker, I'm not convinced because I do think his finishing could still do us some work. Most of his goals tend to end up being pretty ugly finishes more often than not. So if he could tidy up that side of his game, which, potentially if he's going to be getting, a good break, and then obviously he's going to be getting those extra training sessions with Postecoglou over the summer, then I think that could help him come on even more so in that way. For me, definitely seems to be going down the route more of being a winger than an actual out-and-out striker. To me, I think that there's no question about that. That's his best position. But I think, even if you're looking at that from, other players at the club, the example he sets is exactly the boy you should be looking at and thinking, this is who I need to be better than, because in terms of work rate, hard work always, beats quality. If quality isn't working hard, is what the old saying is, I think. So, when it comes to Maeda, it's a good bit of business. Nice to get that one all done and dusted. I think we all knew it was going to be coming. It seemed like an absolute formality. Even when he was signed back in January, there was this pretty much clause that they were going to be buying him in the summer. So it's a nice one to get over the line. And as I say, hopefully with Maeda next season, I think if we can just polish up a bit of his attacking play, then he could be onto a real gem of a player there as well.
Well, yeah, definitely. And I think as well with Maeda, what he does is he's got a profile, Jonathan, that really does fit Postecoglou's style. Postecoglou, as he always says, he doesn't just sign players based on ability. I think he looks for characteristics in them, and the "we never stop" motto can be applied in earnest to a certain danger Maeda, Jonathan. I think his work rate has been sensational. His pace is obviously on another level to anything we've seen maybe since Didier Agat. In fact, he might even be quicker than Agat, which is saying something in itself. I know.
That would be an interesting race for the two of them together.
Crazy. He's definitely the fastest I've seen at Celtic since Agat. 100%. It is interesting because, I mean, the thing is with Maeda, at times he looked like he was maybe struggling to settle into the team, and I thought at times his first touch was a bit lacking. I thought some of his finishing was questionable, but his numbers, he finished on pretty strong numbers by the end of the season, Jonathan. Chipped in with a number of assists, chipped in with a number of goals. I think he'll be going into the summer, his wee break right now, feeling pretty confident and pretty satisfied with how the start to his career at Celtic has went. And obviously add to that as well, Jonathan, you combine with the fact he's got a winner's medal already in his cabinet. And he knows he played a big part in that. So it is very exciting that he's obviously confirmed permanently. We knew it was going to happen anyway. I think what I wanted to ask you was, why do you think Celtic did that with that deal? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, right now at this stage in May, I suppose maybe prize money's been handed out for finishing first. But it seemed an odd one. We didn't just...
Has to do with the accounts, I think. I don't know what the reason you would do that for. It must be a business sort of decision there. I don't see any other reason to be holding that one up. So I don't know when the company year end results are with Celtic. I can't really remember. I'm not an accountant. I don't really pay too much attention to those sort of facts and figures. But I would imagine when it comes to that side of things, Celtic have obviously decided to do this bit of business and put it into next year's books to make the figures look a bit healthier. That's the only thing I can really think of there, because it was the worst kept secret in football, really, that Maeda was going to be signing permanently in the summer. It was pretty much bizarrely confirmed in January that Celtic were really just going to loan him and then buy him in the summer. It was almost pretty much announced that way, which is a very strange way of doing business, and it's not a transfer I can ever really recall, not just Celtic, but any football club really being involved in business quite like that. But it doesn't really matter. I think we're all quite happy we've got him here. It would have been a bit more awkward if he turned around to an absolute shit, and then we're like, fuck, we've already said we're buying him in the summer.
Well,
you know what? We've actually changed our mind. Back you go.
I know. I mean, it was a weird one though, just because, the fee as well was so modest, 1.7 million. It just seemed like...
What? I agree.
I don't get it. I'm sure that idiot Joe Black probably thinks that must mean that we're skint, Jonathan. But yeah, there must have been some sort of clever reason for it. Speaking of Blacks, I don't know if it's the surname Black. There is another idiot on Twitter these days called James Black. I seen him, there was a video going about Tam Selleck's son shared, and he's actually speaking. It gave me the creeps. And he's saying... Apparently he's been saying Robbie Keane was a bigger loan flop than Ramsey.
Oh, he must be fishing. He must be fishing for comments there. That's just trolling, surely. Nobody can be serious with that.
I mean, it's crazy because...
Come on, James, you're better than that. Come on.
Yeah, whoever he is, yeah. Phil McGinley, that video of him is so creepy, it is. But I mean, Robbie Keane won Celtic Player of the Year. He'd only joined in January. But anyway, I just seen that comment there, it made me think. But yeah, Maeda in terms of loan signings, very odd the format of the deal. Brilliant though that his long-term future is secured. I think we may well get at least another one player, Jonathan, in that mould. I don't know what position necessarily, but with those sort of ethics that Maeda has brought in now, Speaking, Jonathan, of ethics, where is Scotland as a country, Jonathan, with certain issues? Now, Aidan McGeady did a very frank and honest interview with Kenny McIntyre over the weekend. This is a topic I think that is close to the heart of a huge section of our supporter base. You need to remember of their roots, where they're from, and a lot of our support and team's religion. It does come into it. I'm not any religion. I know you're not any religion, Jonathan, so I'm not going to kid on to be a Catholic because I'm a Celtic supporter, but I fully respect anyone's beliefs, Jonathan, in this day and age. And it also doesn't mean I've got my eyes closed on these things. I think it's been undeniable, absolutely undeniable. There is an undercurrent, Jonathan, of anti-Irish racism, anti-Catholicism in Scotland that has went on for years. I don't want to get overly political as ever, but sometimes when a footballer is addressing it, Jonathan, in the manner that Aidan McGeady does with Kenny McIntyre, he asks him, Jonathan, the simplest of questions. You know, why? Why was it I got that? And Kenny McIntyre refuses to answer. The silence is deafening. He is squirming in his chair. But that is because, rather than even saying, there is an issue here, and you're right, Aidan, it's still not been tackled properly as a country, because it's went on and it's so deep-rooted now, Jonathan, this is just allowed now just to exist as an undercurrent in our, country in 2022. I think that's really, really poor. And I think Aidan McGeady was so right, bang on the money. I know he did an Arfield comparison, which many are questioning, saying, well, Arfield gave it every chance to join Scotland. I mean, Aidan McGeady made the decision when he was 14 to go to the Irish setup. So this was nothing newsworthy that he'd done that. He was booed, Jonathan, because he was a Catholic Scotsman that chose to play for Ireland over Scotland, and no one could see it for the decision-making process that McGeady went through, which Kevin 14 comes in. Aidan explains it perfectly in the interview, and he says Celtic wouldn't let him play for his school, so Scotland's schoolboys missed him. It was a loophole in the system. He also explains Packy Bonner was pals Aidan McGeady's dad. He phoned him and says, well, don't worry, you can still play for the school team and come with us. So his allegiance was kind of set when he was 14. He wasn't going to hop about and change or anything. I'll give you another example, Jonathan. Karamoka Dembele actually switched allegiance from Scotland to our main football rivals, Jonathan.
Yeah.
England. Has Karamoka Dembele ever been booed when he's put on a Celtic shirt? I don't think so. So let's get fucking real here, Kenny McIntyre. Let's get real. I mean, you're asked questions like that. Don't sink below the parapet. Or whatever that word is. I hate when I do that. I've got it all lined up in my head what I'm going to say. But don't just shy away. Don't hide. And Aidan was good enough to give you 2 opportunities, Kenny. And the fact that you don't deny them either, you just say nothing both time and go silent and then ask a different question. I think one of them he actually brings in the old classic tag of Old Firm into it, Jonathan. Again, very subtly reminding everyone this is a universal problem between both clubs. I'm afraid it's not. One of these teams refused to sign a Catholic, Jonathan, until 1989 or something like that. I mean, it's frightening. That anyone thinks this is a Celtic problem in any way, shape or form. We signed the first ever black player to play in the UK, Mr. Heron. We signed Protestants from day one, Jonathan, in the team. It's never been an issue. This is not just, though, a Rangers problem. This was at many grounds, Jonathan. I think there is anti-Catholic rhetoric that is allowed to be used in Scotland. It is called sectarianism. You have to get guys like Neil Lennon to remind people sectarianism is not a word that is used in any other country. Call it what it is. If it's anti-Irish racism, why are we calling it sectarianism? I'll tell you why. Because it gives it this own wee identity, Jonathan, which then means it's not quite as bad as racism. It's just a sectarian problem in our society. It's all hiding, Jonathan. Hiding behind labels and terms that are bullshit. Aidan McGeady was on point yesterday. What's your thoughts on it if you've got any?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just one of these sad things. When there we go, we got the right saying now. I think when it comes to Scottish football, it's one of the, as much as we like to be positive on the bus and we like to find the drum about everything, that's great. When it comes to Scottish football, this has been an underlying problem for a long time, probably right back when Scottish football very first began. I would imagine it's just never really been stamped out, and if anything, it seems to be getting worse. As the years go on, you look at somebody like McGeady who's made this decision as a young boy, and he doesn't deserve the abuse he got, doesn't deserve any of that for choosing to play for one country over another, and what he got pelters with was quite frankly ridiculous. But he's not the only example of this. Unfortunately, you bring in a guy like Neil Lennon, who was probably subject to the worst hate crime I think I've ever seen, from all sorts of angles, from so many different supporters, particularly when he went into management. I remember his first season very well, where he was just pretty much getting absolute dog's abuse, and then was getting bullets in the posts and all sorts of other horrible things, happening there. It's one that the media do not seem very keen at all to address. Unfortunately, I can't really think of anyone in the media really that pulls anyone up on this, which is damning in of itself. It's almost as if there's a reluctance to try and move this forward. I think when you look at it, it's almost as if, for Irish Catholics, it's a little bit different in the sense that they don't really apply for the same sort of rules as, like, if this was, for example, a Muslim player, that was getting this sort of abuse, they'd be getting called out, left, right, and centre. And if anyone was getting done with that, they'd be getting hit with, bans from stadiums or fines or whatever the case may be. There'd be repercussions for it, and everyone would be, demanding there was repercussions for it, and rightfully so. But it seems like when it comes to Irish Catholics, it seems as if there is a bit of it's just a Celtic Rangers sort of problem, and it just gets swept under the carpet as that sort of problem, and it's not right, it's not fair, and it's one of those ones that continuously happens in Scottish football. And the media will only ever call any of these things out if they can do a tit for tat comparison and be like, oh well, you've been singing about the IRA, so this is just really the equivalent of that, and all sorts of other absolute nonsense or whatever else they want to come out with on these sort of things. Now, for me, it's something they need to address. It should have been addressed a long time ago, but even if you look further into Scottish culture, and I don't really want to make this too political, but the fact of the matter is you still have orange walks going on, in the country as well, that go past, Catholic churches. And, wasn't that long ago you had an incident where a priest was spat on in one of these. That only happened a few years ago, and they still can't get the orange walks moved so that they're at least not going past these churches. So for me, it's something that needs to be addressed, and it should really be coming from all angles on this. This should be the media, the government, everyone should be calling this out, because quite frankly, it's no place in society. It certainly has no place in football either. And, I think McGeady spoke from the heart. I think what McGeady has said, he's only really said the truth, as to what's been going on in Scotland for a number of years. And unfortunately, Aidan McGeady is just one of many victims of this abuse. And frankly, it needs to come to an end sooner than later.
Jonathan, let's be quite clear here. The BBC are paid for by us, right? Have they not got the ability or the moral standards, Jonathan, and a duty of care when Aidan McGeady is flagging racism, what he felt it was racist booing, right? Now, let's flip it, Jonathan. And that is now a player that played for Celtic that was black. And it's saying to Kenny McIntyre, I was booed in every ground. And what do you think the reason for that was? And we all know there was a backstory and it had been about his colour. Do you think Kenny McIntyre, Jonathan, would struggle to reply to that? Do you think he would be silent, Jonathan? No, he would rightfully say, that's because of the colour of your skin. That is shocking. Why are we treating anti-Irish racism differently? Why are we calling it sectarianism? Why is our media that we fund incapable, Jonathan, of condemning it when Aidan McGeady is giving him an open goal to do so? I thought McGeady did it very, very succinctly, though. I thought he was saying, he was testing him. I think McGeady knew, Jonathan, that Kenny McIntyre was feeling uncomfortable. And I think he knew he might not say anything here. He gave him the decency of a second go at it, Jonathan, moments later. Kenny McIntyre absolutely absolutely shits the bed. We deserve better as a broadcast. I'll give you another example. Now, Graham Spears gets a lot of flack from both sides of the divide on Twitter, and he frustrates me because he's more than capable, Jonathan, of calling things out very well, and at times he does. But the thing is with Graham Spears, he's got to protect his career, obviously. And this is where you get to the problem. They're all protecting themselves, Jonathan. And when that happens, you can't tell the truth. Now, when we're lucky on here, we can say what the fuck we want, Jonathan. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We can give our honest opinion. I'm not going to be worrying about anyone paying my wages or any of that nonsense, you know? I'll give my honest opinion on instances like this when they've kind of wound me up a wee bit. Now, when you get Graham Spears saying, I have condemned Rangers supporters on several times. I'm not really obsessed with it being the Rangers thing, by the way. Right now, that's not the focus of my argument. My focus of the argument is more on the media here. But Rangers is the recent example when it comes to Graham Spears. Now, he says, but I've got to praise them. They were in wonderful form on their trip abroad. Instantly, someone comes in, Jonathan, with a video of to a man them all singing We Hate Roman Catholics outside a pub. And Graham Spears' reply is, I knew this would go like, I think he says tit for tat when I posted it. Like I say, I've never been shy in calling it up, but like this time I felt it was fair to give them the praise. And it's like, no, Graham, you're not condemning. Look, so you've seen the video, but you're not actually referring to it at all. You're going like this. You're putting the blinkers on. This is a positive Rangers thread. This is what it basically is, Jonathan. So we can't now show two sides to it. He's confused. He is, Jonathan, in the halfway house now. He doesn't know how to play it on social media. He doesn't know how to deal with the backlash. Because right now he's getting for Celtic fans. And if he then condemns, and which would have been the right thing to do, because he's acknowledged that he's seen that video, and say that's disgusting. That aside, I thought they did all right or whatever, but that's absolutely shocking. I'm glad you flagged it to me. This can't be going on. I expect Rangers to release a statement on it, or something like that. See if he'd put something like that, Jonathan. He then gets it from Rangers fans as well. And here we now get to the problem. That they are so screwed, or they feel like they'll be so screwed, if they have both sides of the divide. You know, the club supporters, because they're the two best supported teams, both hating on them at the same time. And what I think is so sad about that is you're never going to get, Jonathan, the bare minimum honesty that was required from both Kenny McIntyre, Aidan McGeady, and from Graham Spears, when literally acknowledging he's watched a video of hundreds of fans saying we hate Roman Catholics, but he still replies, well, I knew this would go tit for tat, but actually, fair's fair, I'm going to praise the Rangers fans for the behaviour. Why could he not just say what was in that video he was watching? Because he'd already upset Celtic fans. He couldn't upset them both. Is that not a sad state of affairs, Jonathan? That your own media, your national broadcasters cannot be seen to tell the truth when it's staring them in the face.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones where they need to have kind of a sort of a levelling up, if you like, between the two clubs. And it's either a case that if they're giving one praise, they're not going to be saying anything derogatory in that sort of statement. And it's the way the media has worked for as long as I can remember. Really, where they do just want to kind of almost say, if you're saying one thing about one of the sets of supporters, then they need to find something to bring up and be almost going back and forth on it, but condemning one side more than the other. They kind of they always want to kind of be making sure it's like, oh well, we've had a pop at the Rangers fans for doing this, so we need to find something that Celtic fans have done so that we can equalise this up and make it look as if they're both as bad as each other, which is just nonsensical, really, when you're looking at it for matters such as what McGeady has brought to the fore. Because as we rightfully said, if you're going back to that video of the Rangers fans in Seville, and they're singing about hating on, Catholics, you flipped that word and you changed that to Muslims, you changed that to Buddhists, you changed that to, any other religion, whichever one you want. The backlash would have been unbelievable. And it would have picked up a lot more traction, as well. Other people would have been out condemning that and thinking, what on earth are these nutcases all about? But it almost seems as if, if you're an Irish Catholic, that's just kind of what you're expected to put up with. And I don't really understand why on earth it doesn't get called out more than it does, and why we're so backwards as a country in terms of dealing with this. It's almost as if they just want to make their money's worth off this derby, which is full of hatred at the best of times, and this just adds more fuel to the fire. And they almost, whilst they like to wave their finger at the supporters when they're doing things like this, they also, in some perverse way, think it adds to the rivalry, if you ask me, as well. And they just don't deal with it as well as they should do, as well as the bare minimum what you would expect. And that is, for these things to be getting called out when, clearly things are going way, way out of hand on things like that. There's absolutely no reason for anyone to be hating on somebody for whatever their own individual belief system is. Everyone is entitled to their own point of view, and I'm a big believer in that. So I don't feel it's particularly fair or, a particularly clever thing to be doing is going around and pretty much saying that you hate on somebody and pretty much getting away with pretty much smearing a whole portion of a community just because of the fact that the media aren't going to call you out. And the sooner more action is taken on this, the better it's going to be for everyone. Sadly, I think Scottish football is so far back, and perhaps maybe even Scottish society in general is so far back that it might well be beyond the point of it being safe, because it just doesn't feel like there's anyone that's willing to take control of the situation, unfortunately. And I don't know how they improve it.
Well, I tell you, there's ways they can improve it, Jonathan. It comes down to the original point that this was about, and that was Kenny McIntyre. And it's Kenny McIntyre having the backbone and the honesty to answer Aidan McGeady's question, Jonathan. Here's the other side with this as well. I don't want to go on about it too. It's a bit serious and all that for the bus, but I think it does need to be spoke about. I'm not going to shy away from it either. I also think, Jonathan, who won that? Who comes out of that looking good, that situation now? How does Kenny McIntyre come out of that thinking, well, by dodging that question, it's actually, saved my bacon a wee bit? I don't understand how. Firstly, his moral compass looks, like it doesn't exist anymore. To us, certainly. To us watching with half a brain. Secondly, it looks like he's not actually showing much support to Aidan McGeady's actual individual situation, which is incredible when you think about it. He's not showing much empathy towards it at all, Jonathan, by saying nothing. I'm probably going sighing and doing things like this when McGeady's actually looking at him direct in the eye. How does this make Kenny McIntyre as a journalist look any better? I don't get what the gain is for them to do it. It doesn't end with them looking very well, but like I say, I thought it was good that McGeady, I think, had his shit together before that interview, Jonathan, put it that way. I think it was a loaded question that he asked, and I think he knew what he was doing, and fair play to him. I would like to see more bravery than that, rather than it being as well. This is the funniest thing, because all you'll now hear, right, is McGeady was a wee bastard of a player as well. Neil Lennon was a bastard of a player. It was nothing to do with religion. It's always because they're actually wee bastards. It way not annoy me. James McCarthy, anyone? What did he do wrong when he was at Hamilton? Was he booed, Jonathan? Oh, he was. He was booed when he was at Hamilton, so let's get our head round that as well. The common denominator here is they're playing for Ireland, and you don't like it. And to those people, they live a sad life. But I'm glad Aidan McGeady called it out. He was spot on too. But on that note, Jonathan, we will move on to a light-hearted subject, because I know people have been getting very excited about the latest Adidas kits, Jonathan. I've been a bit underwhelmed with the Adidas shirts so far, if I'm honest. I didn't like the pink vertical stripes one, the white one. I've decided I don't like it. I thought the dark green one was alright. It looked a bit like a template shirt, just with a dark green that we'd used before with the sort of gold Adidas stripes. I mean, I don't think there was, it was nothing like unique about it or anything like that. Just solid Celtic colours for an away kit that we've seen before. But there is a top that they have obviously based on a retro classic that's doing the rounds. The black, Jonathan, with the green vertical stripes. What are you making of that, mate? It's something else, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely looks a cracker. I don't think they've done themselves justice quite yet. Adidas, certainly with the away tops. I quite like the hoops that they've done so far, but you can't go wrong with hoops. Really, it's quite difficult to make a mess of them. But certainly away tops, they've left a bit to be desired. But I think this time around, Adidas have obviously done a little bit of background research. This one looks like it's going to be a cracker. I expect the sales for it are going to be extremely high, which obviously adds a little bit more money into the coffers for the club, as well, when they're already going to be having all that extra money in the bank after how successful the season has been. It's certainly one that I think a lot of fans will be taking up the offer from. I'm assuming you've probably already pre-ordered yours.
Not quite yet, but I can see a few comments coming in about the back being completely black, Jonathan. Now, I think the reason for that, though, might be Champions League.
Champions League, yeah.
Big patch. I think it's a nod to the fact they're going to be in the Champions League, Jonathan. So I know with the hoops, you can't break the hoops. So that'll have that big white sort of patch on the back again, about square. Aye, that's the word I'm looking for. And that'll be interesting. Paul Dyatt, though, he wants to know where you can buy a bus ticket. There should be, on the video, there's a join button. $1.99 a month, Jonathan. We're now up to around 20 members on the bus. You will see them with the wee logos like Feed the Bear is a member, Jonathan. And, a beautiful donation for him last week as well, which was really, really kind. Jonny Boyce 67. He's a member as well, as you can see with the wee logo. Their names come up in green, Jonathan, at my end as well, so it all just works. Again, it's optional. There's no pressure on whether you want to do it or not, but Paul, there should be a join button just below the video on YouTube. I know people on iPhones seem to be having a bit of difficulty with it, so if you go into YouTube on your laptop, it might be a bit easier there. Maybe you're able to do it on your smart TV if you open up the app that way as well. I've not tried that. And Tim Billy says tickets are free. They are. The content will always be free on the Bhoycie bus, so don't worry about that. But if you do want to support the channel in any way, shape or form, of course you can. Kaiser letting us know he's a member as well, I think, by that face. Yeah, Jonathan, I've been a wee bit underwhelmed with some of the Adidas kits so far. The home one, have you seen that with the silver Adidas
I've not
stripes?
seen the home one yet for this season, no.
I don't know. I mean, it's a shit photo, really, of it. But it looks like 3 silver stripes, quite a deep V-neck.
Oh, right.
It looks like it's almost going to be like baggy, so it'd be like that, not like a big, thick, sort of chunky V-neck that still sort of covers you there. I don't know. I really don't know. But what I would say is the black one, I think they've captured the imagination with that, Jonathan. I think it's a throwback, and it's good to see Adidas doing a wee bit of homework on the kit. That's what I was wanting. I was wanting to see a kit that you went, that's not like the other, 10, 20 teams that will be in the Champions League wearing Adidas next season's away kit as well. That disappoints me when it's just a basic template, Like all the home nations that were made by Adidas, they're all, the internationals, they all had like the same Adidas away kit last year. It's mad.
Yeah.
But the silver trim, Phil McGinley thinks, is a tribute to all the silverware that we've been winning.
Might be right there, Phil.
Twist on it. It's a good twist on it. I like that. But, right, I think we'll call it a night there, Jonathan. It's been over an hour. There's 120 watching live. Please, on your way out, if you've not already, hit like, hit subscribe if you've not subscribed to the channel, and hit the bell if you want notifications. We are still going to be on loads over the summer months. Back Wednesday, Phil McGinley, a bit of nostalgia we will be doing, and we will be going back to the World Cup 94. Kevin 14 is going to be downloading the pod and listening to it again at work tomorrow on Spotify, which more and more of yous are doing, by the way. I'm seeing the audio numbers creeping up, so that's brilliant. Predominantly we are a YouTube channel, but we do create an audio podcast, Jonathan, as well, for those who miss the bus, or sometimes if you put your phone into your pocket, it's on YouTube, Jonathan, you can't lock it or anything, so sometimes it's quite good to have the audio versions there and ready. Thank you very much for your time, young man. It has been a brilliant Monday Club as always. Thanks to everyone in the comments. It's been brilliant debate tonight. Some serious, some more light-hearted. You know how it goes. We'll be back Wednesday for some nostalgia. Here's Chris Sutton. See ya.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now. And you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.